Well, joining me on the line is Doron Spielman. Born and educated in the United States, he moved to Israel in 2000. He serves as international spokesperson in the IDF reserves with the rank of major, and he is also working to transform the City of David, which is an amazing site, full disclosure, I'm a donor, into one of the world's most significant archaeological and historical sites. And one of the reasons I donate to City of David is because of the archaeological work they are doing, which is truly incredible. He has a brand new book titled When the Stones Speak, The Remarkable Discovery of the City of David and What Israel's Enemies Don't Want You to Know. Doron, thanks so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Nice to see you, Ben. Thanks for having me.
So, why don't we actually start on current events? Obviously, a lot going on in the Middle East. We've seen the release of the last American hostage by Hamas. A lot of discussion about what's going to happen next in the Gaza Strip. There are some people who are suggesting that Hamas should be allowed to remain in some sort of governance structure in the Gaza Strip. Seems like a lot of confusion on all sides. What do you make of it?
I think it's insane. I think we actually need to zoom out. If we look at this, let's say 20 years from now, a 2-year period, Hamas goes over the border. They massacre 1,200 civilians. They take 250 hostages. They let some of the hostages go, and now they're back in power in the Gaza Strip. I mean, there is rarely been an example in world history. Can we imagine doing this with Al-Qaeda, where a terror group is then going to be encouraged to take hostages? It's an absurdity. It makes absolutely no sense. And the army today, I was in the Gaza border just a few days ago. The soldiers are committed to finishing this job. The state of Israel, even though our hearts torn over the hostages, is committing to finish this job. And the military plan that was put forth now is a plan that says we will hold territory as opposed to doing strike, moving in and out, and we will push Hamas to the limit. This is the opportunity to finish them off. Giving them any type of state is a historical blunder and would not serve U.S. interests either. I mean, basically, it's supporting an enemy that denies Israel, denies Jewish faith, denies the sources, foundations of America.
Well, that gets to the topic of your book, When the Stones Speak, which is about the sort of archaeological history of the land of Israel and the attempt by the Palestinian Authority and much of the Arab world to deny the connection between Judeo-Christian heritage and the land of Israel. So why don't you talk a little about what City of David is for people who don't know?
So the City of David is actually ancient Jerusalem. Most people think ancient Jerusalem is in the walls of the old city, which would make sense if it was anywhere else in the world. However, Queen Victoria sent an explorer to find the Ark of the Covenant 150 years ago, and he didn't find it or anything biblical in the old city walls. So one day he leaves the old city walls and finds a spring of water, walks through a cave, and finds a shaft. And when he climbs up, he uncovers an entire ancient city beneath the ground. After a short period of time, he realizes, wow, the ancient city of Jerusalem from the Bible, the city of King David, is actually outside the old city walls. And that is the site that I spent over 21 years excavating. And today, if you want to walk around with the Bible and pull stuff out of the ground and match the pages of the Bible, that's the City of David. It is essentially, it is the foundation of Jewish, Christian, and American faith. And every time we find something, Ben, it sends out shockwaves. One part of the world cheers when we find a name that matches from the book of Jeremiah. However, another part of the world, the part of the world you just mentioned, the Palestinian Authority, Hamas, the Muslim Brotherhood that have been denying Israel's history as part of this campaign, they then circle the site and say that's something we have to stop. And that's what the City of David's been facing.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that's so fascinating about your book, When the Stones Speak, and about this entire controversy is if you really want to understand what happened on October 7th, you have to understand that it is not a territorial issue. It is really, in its essence, a historical issue in which you have one party that basically denies the historicity of the entire Bible, suggests that everything that is Jewish-related or Christian-related in Jerusalem is an overt falsehood, and that is why the land ought to belong to the Palestinian Authority or to the Muslim Brotherhood or to whomever. I mean, the stuff that you're uncovering, the reason it's controversial is specifically because it connects the history of Jerusalem to an ancient past that predates Islam by several thousand years.
That's why they call it, right, Ben, the Al-Aqsa flood. They didn't call it the Gaza war. They didn't call it the war to take over southern Israel. Al-Aqsa is the Temple Mount, right? So I stood on October 8th in the southern border in massive wreckage, hundreds of cars. I describe it in When the Stones Speak, that had just been obliterated and the smoke was still coming out of them. And I opened up the door, I could see the driver's registrations there. And I looked around, I said, this is a flood, but they're not calling it Southern Israel flood. Their whole intention, it goes back to Al-Aqsa, to the foundations of Jewish belief. And they have spent decades, and we saw this in the City of David, denying the foundations of Jewish belief. Every time we found something, they would claim it was a Zionist plot. And to the point at which we found this incredible road, which you've been on, this pilgrimage road that stretches all the way up to the temple. It's the most miraculous thing ever. And they threatened not the Jewish workers, they threatened our Arab workers until the Arab workers quit. And when that didn't work, they tried to assassinate the head of the city of David. And when that didn't work, they took us to court. They even enlisted the State Department in the Obama presidency, all because they realized that when we uncover this foundation, it bashes and obliterates this entire Palestinian narrative out of the water. And as you talked about so eloquently, this is now spilled over onto American campuses. I mean, this is the battle in Israel and in the United States.
We'll get to more on this in a moment. First, I'd like to change gears for a moment and talk about Israel. It is now May. Exactly 80 years ago this month, the horrors of the Holocaust finally came to an end. But did you know half of all Holocaust survivors actually still live in Israel? Think about that for just a moment. These elderly survivors who already endured unimaginable trauma decades ago, they're now facing renewed pain from the October 7th attacks. What makes this even more heartbreaking is that thousands of elderly Jewish survivors in Israel are living below the poverty line. There's simply not enough of a safety net for them, which is why I support the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. The fellowship provides a real lifeline to these precious individuals through hot meals and boxes filled with nutritious food. For just $25, about the cost of a nice lunch, you can help provide a food box for somebody who desperately needs it. Or if you're able to give more generously, $335 provides hot meals for an entire year. If you're moved to help, it's easy to make a difference. Just head on over to benforthefellowship.org. That's all one word. Your contribution will directly impact the lives of these survivors who've already been through so much. Again, that's benforthefellowship.org to make a donation today. benforthefellowship.org. I mean, it truly is kind of incredible that you actually have an entire group of people who deny that the Temple Mount has anything to do with the temple. Which is it truly, I mean, it beggars the imagination to make that argument, but that argument is constantly made, which is why, if you're wondering why they care about a pilgrimage road, so there's a giant road that people at City of David have uncovered that goes from the Siloam Pool, which is a place where people used to essentially cleanse themselves before going to the temple, and then they would walk up by 2/3 of a mile from the Siloam Pool all the way up to the Temple Mount. And you guys have actually uncovered this gigantic staircase that goes all the way from the bottom of the City of David up through, and in order to preserve Arab housing and shore it up, actually, you built this entire extraordinarily expensive tunnel. In the United States, we would just declare eminent domain, blow up whatever was on top, and then uncover the staircase. In Israel, because of the political sensitivity, billions of dollars have been spent in order to preserve the housing on top and shore it up against earthquake, and built this entire tunnel. And still, you have the Palestinian Authority and advocates for Palestinian Arab domination of the land and Muslim domination of the land. You have those advocates suggesting that this staircase is somehow fake or unreal. And folks should understand that this staircase is certainly, when Jesus was yelling at people as they were going up to the temple about corruption in the temple, he was literally standing on this staircase. Well, you can watch. I did a documentary with Jordan Peterson about the foundations of Western civilization. You can watch us walk this road and stop by a stone that almost certainly Jesus stood on while yelling at his fellow Jews not to corrupt the temple.
You know, Ben, the time that this really struck me and why I wrote this book is I was explaining this to Leslie Stahl. She came to the site to do 60 Minutes, and she brought her husband with her. She said to me, for the first time ever of any shoot she's ever done, Leslie Stahl from 60 Minutes, I show them the clay seals that we found of the two people that tried to kill the prophet Jeremiah. She's blown away. Her husband is crying. Then the show begins. It was like windshield wipers. The smile's gone. She never mentioned those whatsoever. The only thing she talked about was the fact that we were digging underneath Arab homes and Arab homes are falling under, which the reality is exactly the opposite. In addition to preserving archaeology, we have spent so much money that the only homes in the entire area that now have supports underneath them are the Arab homes we've actually dug beneath because of what we've built. And at that moment, I realized if Leslie Stahl, if I did a whole 60 Minutes episode and she can't get off the story, I have to write the story of the City of David. And that's basically why I wrote the book, because these challenges and the efforts to stop the archaeology are so intense, and they affect Jews all over the world on campus. They affect Americans because the founding fathers of America, of course, the Liberty Bell, declare liberty, all these symbols come from the Bible. If you wither away, if you chop away at the Jewish Bible, there's nothing left for any of us. And that's exactly what the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, their head, by the way, the US still keeps talking about, certainly in the Biden administration, he should head the new Gaza. He said 3 weeks ago on the news that the temple is in Yemen. So, it's right up to the top when it comes to this.
Well, that is Doron Spielman. You can check out his brand new book, When the Stones Speak, The Remarkable Discovery of the City of David and What Israel's Enemies Don't Want You to Know. Doron, really appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, Ben.
Well, that's all for now, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts down below. Be sure to check out all of the other great content on my channel. I'll see you here next time.